The following podcast will contain spoilers, tangents, hot takes, and excessive foul language. Viewer discretion is advised. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Frightmares Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Proctor, and joining me today for episode 362 is my good friend, Michael Vyers. And this time it's recording to get your dancing.
Yeah. It's like, it's a small window, but I'll make it work.
Yeah, we're recording on Riverside because I want to do video stuff. Apparently, people find it more engaging, so that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I need to get on that, but I don't know if I want to pay the amount.
Better than streamers, like $64. But today on the first installment of Zombruary Attack, we're discussing our essential pick, Dawn of the Dead from 1978, a movie that shows us just how important malls can be in an apocalypse. Let's see where this lands on the Nightmare Index. All right, so what have we been watching, Michael? Anything good, noteworthy?
Let me check my letterboxd.
We got to talk about the two movies that we saw when we were up there.
Oh yeah, I forgot we talked about it on my show.
We didn't talk about it on this show. So
we watched actually more than two movies when you were here.
We watched. So we two in theaters and then two at your house. At least two. I know we watched The Gruesome Twosome, which was wacky.
Yep. And then we watched Amanda and the Alien.
Fucking, like, that movie is so ridiculously amazing. Greatest blind buy in the world.
Honestly, it might be.
It might be.
Yeah. That I'm just so glad that Amanda's like, hey, I don't see my name very often.
Yeah, I don't see my name in a title very often. Let's pick this up. 10 out of 10, Amanda. That was the greatest pick ever, so.
Mm-hmm. And now I can just have it on my shelf, and I'm happy.
From Vinegar Syndrome, no less, with the slipcover.
Yeah, gotta love those AGFA releases.
Did I tell you that when halfway through watching it, I bought it on eBay?
Oh yeah, I was sitting next to you. I was watching you buy it.
It's like, this is movie's not even over yet, and I'm like, I need to own this. It's so good.
No, that makes sense.
I'm not even going to tell you guys anything about that one. Just go find it. Just go find it and watch it.
You will not look at Paprika the same way.
That is exactly my review for that movie on Letterboxd.
I want to make some deviled eggs, but I'm like, what paprika do I add?
Things might get real spicy if you start adding paprika.
Also, like, we're just going to talk we're going to talk about the movie as if you've seen it and just leave you more confused. That movie loved coffee so much.
Mm-hmm. A lot of coffee shots.
The way they use the making of a cappuccino to signify the end of a sex scene was just masterful.
There was an inordinate amount of shots of coffee, espresso, all sorts of things, which was really weird.
I was able to add it. So for your listeners out there, I'm a huge nerd when it comes to making lists, but I make very hyper specific lists.
My favorite.
So for example, I was able to add it to my list called Coffee Please, which is where any movie where there is a coffee order or someone's drinking coffee, I make a note of it, and I make a note of what their coffee order is.
Is Miss Congeniality on that list? Because that's a long coffee order.
It's not yet because I usually only add it as I come across them.
Gotcha. Okay.
But like I have that list. I have it's called Deliciously Unnoticed Food and Film, where I talk about meals that are featured in movies. So, like, to give you a rundown of some of those options, it's like we've got Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. There's a sandwich with bologna, American cheese, another slice of bologna, Swiss cheese, turkey, plain yellow mustard, and mayo on white bread, with the crust cut off by a large fucking butcher knife.
See, now you need to go on social, like, your TikTok and stuff, and make these meals. And
I've thought about it, but I don't want Binging with Babish to come and sue me.
Oh, fair. Okay. Fair.
So I was able to add all that to say I was able to add it to my list for coffee orders in movies.
Oh, let's see. So where did I'm in my lists,
But we never actually said what all we watched. So while Austin's with us, we watched the Arrow Blu-ray of The Gruesome Twosome, first time watch for all of us. We saw Park Chan-wook's newest film, No Other Choice, in the beautiful Oriental Theater here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We watched the Agfa/Vinegar Syndrome release of Amanda and the Alien, and then we saw on beautiful 70mm The Testament of Anne Lee.
It was a wild week for cinema, honestly, because even before I came up there, I saw Primate, I saw The Bone Temple, then we had that weekend, then I watched Blade on my plane ride home, of course Hausu for the podcast. Blue Velvet was in, it was a hell of a week. But yeah, Testament of Anne Lee was great. Love seeing that in 70mm. Park Chan-wook's movie was also very good. Highly suggest those. Don't want to talk about them in detail. They're just good. You just need to go see them. Just go see them and support cinema for the love of God. Let's see. I watched some. I already mentioned Dracula. I don't know if I mentioned Kombucha, but it was a copy.
I've heard you say the title Kombucha a lot lately.
Okay. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast, but it was sent over to me by AV Entertainment, and much like the title, it is centered around a kombucha drink, and it was described to me as The Office meets David Cronenberg, which is all of the information I needed, and it was a wild time. 4 stars. So good. Watched the original Nosferatu because I had another copy of something from AV Entertainment called Nosferatu: The Real Story. The original Nosferatu I gave a 4. The documentary about Nosferatu I gave a 4. And I watched the remake again of Nosferatu, and it contextualized that movie so much more that I gave that one 4 stars as well. So
there's consistency.
And then I saw Whistle, which is not even out yet. Well, by the time this podcast comes out, I think it'll be releasing the next day. But there was an advanced screener at my AMC. So I went and checked it out. I fucking loved it. I went by myself because that was my night to go out. So I'm in the theater having the best time. The audience did not understand the assignment. Clearly was not in their, I don't know what they liked, because it was hilarious. I'm sitting there cackling at all these crazy.
Those advanced screenings sometimes have very weird audiences.
Yeah, they did not get the assignment, because I'm sitting there cackling at the jokes and all of the crazy carnage, and no one around me is doing anything. I'm like, fuck you guys, I'm having fun. And then for my cult movie challenge, I was originally going to watch, it was Angelo Mao Ying Week, who I've never heard of. But she's apparently a badass, because she was one of the first females to actually get into the kung fu genre while it was, and it still is predominantly male, but she was one of the first ones to break through and do kung fu movies. And I originally picked Ninja the Violent Sorcerer, which, killer name, right? And she's only in archive footage of that movie, so I was like, okay, that's not really fair. And the only other 2 horror movies she was in, one of them was also archive footage, and the other one I couldn't find streaming. So I watched Enter the Dragon, which she was only in 5 minutes of the movie. So I guess that wasn't the greatest pick either. I had never seen Enter the Dragon. My dad was a Bruce Lee fan. I know Bruce Lee. He's a badass.
That is wild to me, because I feel like that was just a movie that was so integral to my childhood.
Okay.
It is strange to me when people haven't seen, and it's not in a judgmental way. It's just like, sometimes you just like, oh, well, everyone has seen Enter the Dragon. Clearly.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my dad was a fan. I remember him having it on at one point when I was younger, but I really liked it. Also, Kung Fu has never been my genre, but
it is my genre.
See, but now what I've realized is I've never really explored the genre, because outside of like Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, Kung Fury, and Kung Fu Hustle, and Jackie Chan movies. I really haven't watched.
And can I make an assumption?
Yeah, sure.
I assume you've seen mostly Jackie Chan's American films.
Correct. Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, still a lot of fun. Can I make some recommendations of just like primers to start with?
Just for Jackie Chan or just Kung Fu?
Just in general, like some
All
great
right,
places.
let me bust out my notepad here. Kung Fu Rex by Michael. Hit me with it. What do you got?
Okay, so some of these might be bordering on samurai films.
That's fine.
Let's see.
First one, The Last Samurai.
Well, no, I was going to recommend Lady Snowblood.
Lady Snowblood. Already like the title. Okay.
That one is definitely a little bit more of a samurai film. It is, you watch that film, you will see a lot of influences that Quentin Tarantino pulled for Kill Bill visually.
Ooh, okay.
Especially that ending fight scene.
Okay.
I also recommend Come Drink With Me.
Whoa, Come Drink With Me. These are interesting
This one
titles.
is also kind of borderline. This is a wuxia film, Wuxia.
Okay.
If you've ever seen clips of something like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon with like the wire work, that's what a wuxia film is.
Interesting. Okay.
This was directed by a very prolific Chinese filmmaker by the name of King Hu. He has done quite a few films. Another one that I recommend.
Okay.
36th Chamber of the Shaolin.
Oh my god.
Fans out there of the Wu-Tang Clan will probably recognize that name because they use that for one of their they use clips from it in a lot of their music I think that's the name of one of their albums as well.
Okay.
Gordon Liu is the star of that movie. He pretty much, you follow his career, you're gonna find some good shit.
Okay.
He's been in a lot of cool stuff. And then here's some box sets that you can just go like.
Don't even get me started on box sets. I know the Shaw Brothers.
Shaw Brothers is a great place to begin. Yes.
Okay.
But then if you want some
essentials,
obviously like Criterion and Arrow have released the Jackie Chan.
Okay.
Not Jackie Chan. Sorry, Bruce Lee films.
Okay.
I have the Criterion. I didn't want to double dip for the Arrow, but I feel like if you go either route, I just went Criterion because I wanted them all in one place.
That's fair.
But then Criterion did release 2 different Jackie Chan collections.
Okay.
They have Police Story 1 and 2. Those aren't exclusively kung fu films. Like they are, but it's more of like traditional action because like Jackie Chan plays a cop in modern. It's kind of like the mold that he would do with like Rush Hour, but when he was still in like China.
Oh, okay.
Though that's a really good set. And then there is a Jackie Chan collection. I'm just trying to get the name of it. It's called Jackie Chan Emergence of a Superstar.
Ooh.
And it's got his early films. And what's fun about that is Jackie Chan's biggest influence was like the silent comedians like Buster Keaton. So it kind of gives you an idea of where his body control and everything comes from.
All right.
So
I do have one that I am going to watch that's a horror movie. It's called The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, and it sounds amazing.
I've seen that one.
Okay,
All
right, so I'm going to start with these. I love the Kung Fu tangent we just went on. That was great. So I realized, though, after not really having a lot of experience with the genre.
Move 36 Chamber of the Shaolin to the top of that list.
All right, moved. So I'm going to explore that a little bit more. But yeah, that was my cult movie challenge. I gave that one a 4. It was really good. And there's one specific scene at the end of the movie that I almost fell out of my chair. It was a kick to the head that should have blown this guy's head to pieces. And it was fucking peak moment.
You're going to see so much of that.
I love that. Okay, so if that's what I'm getting into, then I'm here for it. I think that's all I've got for recently watched here, that cult movie challenge. And then, of course, Dawn of the Dead, which we're doing today. So with that, let's roll on to the body count. All right.
Wow, that was much clearer than it was on StreamYard.
Yeah, see? And it's funny because I tried Riverside before and it was not great. And then I was like, let me just try it again. Maybe it's because it's the pro version. I don't know. But here we are. So, Dawn of the Dead from 1978. Not released until May 4th of 1979 in the U.S. It is unrated, and there are some fun facts about that I will throw into the episode. Mild sex and nudity, severe violence and gore, moderate profanity, mild alcohol, drugs, and smoking, a dog barking in the background, and severe frightening and intense scenes.
Yeah, I'm going to just warn you about that now. There's people outside fixing our stairs, and Ralphie's got big thoughts.
That's fine. Ralphie, you have those thoughts. So this runtime, since we are specifically doing the Argento cut, was 1 hour and 59 minutes. The theatrical cut, which is Romero's preferred version, is 2 hours and 7 minutes. And then the Cannes cut is like 2:37.
Yeah,
it's long.
Yeah, the difference between the Argento cut and the theatrical cut isn't significant in terms of lengthwise, but you've been doing this podcast for long enough where I'm sure you've watched, you know how different a couple minutes can be.
And yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on how different this movie is for only cutting out about 9 minutes. So this is listed as a horror thriller directed by the legendary George A. Romero, rest in peace, who of course directed Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, many other of the Deads, and he also directed Creep Show. Written by George A. Romero, he writes pretty much everything he directs. Composed by Dario Argento, but that is the theatrical cut. Most of the score in this, on the Argento cut, is actually by Goblin.
It is both correct because Dario Argento was kind of a member of Goblin.
Okay.
Because the theatrical cut is a mixture of some Goblin cues, musical cues.
Yeah.
But then George Romero was huge on
like that stock, not stock.
Yeah.
But stock sound, right? Is that the name? Stock music?
Yeah, like using library tunes.
There we go, library tunes. So but for the purposes of this, it's mainly Goblin, who also composed Deep Red, Beyond the Darkness, Phenomena, stuff like that. Cinematography by Michael Gornick, who only shockingly has 5 credits, but he did the cinematography for Martin, which is an early Romero film, Creep Show, and then Day of the Dead. Edited by George A. Romero, who also edited Night of the Living Dead, The Crazies, and Martin. And then, of course, for the Argento cut, that was edited by Dario Argento. He also edited Trauma, a movie that I could totally loathe, and you can go listen to that on the fucking whatever that month we did.
Trauma month.
Yeah, whatever it was. Starring David MG as Steven, who only has 5 credits, but he was in Basket Case 2 as Half Moon. Ken Foray as Peter, who is a fucking legend. He was in things like From Beyond as Bubba Brown-Lee. And an iconic short.
He was also he was the dad in Kenan and Kel.
Oh shit! Wow, I totally forgot about that. Okay. I was looking for horror things, but okay, I honestly didn't even know that.
Hey, that's what I bring to this function. You mention horror and I mention everything else.
Everything else that's major. He was also in a very, very short but iconic performance in Rob Zombie's Halloween as Joe Grizzly. I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.
My favorite. Can I just get a quick aside about the character Joe Grizzly? My favorite thing about Joe Grizzly is he just feels like Rob Zombie described him in the commentary as he feels like the guy who got laid with that haircut back in the 70s and never changed. Can't unsee that comparison. Like that's what he looked like when he got laid for the first time, so he's never changing it.
And I'm sure he's still slaying ass. God. We have Scott H. Rainier as Roger, who only has 8 credits. He was also in the Dawn of the Dead remake, 2004, as the General. And Galen Ross as Francine, who only has 4 credits. And she was also
Galen Ross is so good.
She was so good in this. And she's in Mad Men as Betsy, but it's shocking.
She's good in Mad Men, but she is like perfect.
She's perfect. Yeah, I agree. I don't think these numbers are right because there was a bit of trivia that said this was Romero's highest grossing movie, of the Dead movie, because it had a budget of $650,000, but according to IMDb, only grossed $160,000. I don't think that's
it might be worldwide and it might be Lifetime.
Okay. So this movie was filmed in the Monroeville Mall in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh. This is not streaming anywhere. It is a very hard title to obtain. Michael and I have the second sight releases. He's got the super fancy 7-disc. I only have the 4-disc. So,
Well, to be fair, like 3 of those discs are soundtrack.
Fair. But it is on Amazon for $3.99 rental. I assume it is just the theatrical cut. Movies that came out around the same time. What a Year to Be Alive. The Warriors. The Deer Hunter. Alien. The Brood. Phantasm.
I'm just going to keep grunting positively.
Do it. The Brood. Phantasm. Rocky 2. Escape from Alcatraz. The Muppet Movie. Moonraker and the Frisco Kid. What a fucking just goddamn. 79 was a great year.
Man, I wish I could had a time machine. I would just go back and see movies when they first released.
Actually, yeah, very well said. I would do the same thing. Quick IMDb summary. During an escalating zombie epidemic, 2 Philadelphia SWAT team members, a traffic reporter, and his TV executive girlfriend seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall. Let's hit the autopsy.
These sound effects are so much more pronounced.
All right, Michael, overall thoughts. I know we have a lot to say. I have I just tried to keep mine short, but what do we have for overall thoughts on the Argento cut of the movie?
Not my favorite cut, but I don't mind it. Well, let's be real. Any cut of this movie I think is perfect. But this is the preferred cut when it's a little bit later and you want to get out a little bit faster.
I agree. Yeah. So I feel the same way. I don't know. I watched the original before we did the Dawn of the Dead episode last year, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. But this cut, to me, I liked it more overall, but there were definitely some elements I wish were still there. Because it's weird. Like, the movie's shorter, but some of the scenes in the shorter cut are longer, which we'll get to. But I think this is why it's the essential pick. A lot of people might think that Night of the Living Dead would be the essential one, but I think this one is because it really kicked off zombies in the 80s. Zombies were all over the place in the 80s. So I think this one is the one that got people interested in the genre.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's because like I am not the biggest fan of zombie films.
Correct.
But George's films are different for me in that way. And even though this is clearly 100% undoubtedly a zombie film, when I think about it, I don't think of it as a zombie film. It's like there's zombie films and then there's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, it's like the zombies are there. They're a main part of the movie, but you're really more focused on our group of 4 just trying to survive. So the zombies almost feel like background noise. I don't know. It's very strange. So the version that everyone is most likely familiar with is going to be the 127-minute theatrical cut. It's the most that's been released on home video, and it's considered the, quote, default version. All of the most iconic Dawn of the Dead moments are there, and the score is a mix of music composed by Goblin and library tracks chosen by Romero. The extended...
I have a fun fact about that whenever we get there.
Perfect. The extended / can cut, it fleshes out the characters. Here we go. Runs 139 minutes. There it is.
Yep, no Goblin score on that.
Yeah, noticeably, this version's score is almost entirely library music and omits Goblin's work. It is also important to note that the 139-minute extended cut is not Romero's director cut. The extended cut was actually edited down into what became the theatrical cut, which is his preferred version. Finally, we arrive at the one we watched today. It's the European / Argento cut, 119 minutes, which was edited together by Argento himself, who produced the film. This is a faster-paced cut, removes some of the dialogue-heavy scenes and comedic bits, choosing to amp up the horror and action factors with a score that's almost entirely Goblins. And fuck, that soundtrack was so goddamn good.
Yeah.
That is obviously the highlight for me, but it's crazy how he only took out 8 minutes, and this movie just felt like 2 hours went by like that. I couldn't believe that only removing 8 minutes made the movie so much better paced.
When we got to the point where the bikers invaded the mall, I was like, oh shit, we're here already. Okay.
I said the same thing. That's like an hour and 35 in. You're like, oh, we're almost done.
I also, and granted, they're working off the same script and everything, but I do find it interesting how similar Argento and Romero's cuts were. I don't know how much they worked together on it. but obviously they're both movies are going to follow the same structure. They're following the same script. But I was just actually quite impressed by how similar they were at times. So either they were just really in simpatico with each other, or they were working together. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't rewatched the theatrical cut close enough to say for sure, but I feel like there was some scenes that I don't remember.
So there's a few that I mentioned. I mean, I'm not going to go through every single one, but there was two in particular. One is the basement scene and the whole raid on that low-income housing in the beginning. It is much more extended, way more violent. Like in the theatrical cut, you only see Peter, right? Ken Foray. You only see his perspective when he's shooting. In Argento's cut, it cuts to everyone he's shooting in the head and just blood's going everywhere. And it also focuses a little bit more on Peter when he has to reload and he starts shedding tears, and it focuses on him and holds on him a lot more before Steven comes over, or not Steven, the other fucking guy, Roger comes over and shoots the zombie. That was a noticeable difference.
Yeah. One of the ones that I noticed too was when they were building the false wall.
Mm-hmm.
When I first noticed it was when they were like matching the paint color. I was like, oh, I don't remember that there being like a cutaway of them making sure they're matching the paint color. But then it was intercut with Galen Ross's character like having morning sickness. It's like, I don't remember this sequence.
Yeah,
but it feels like a very important little thing.
It does, because I remember that he takes the brown paint and does that, and he looks at Steven or whatever, and he like, yep, we're good. I was like, oh, I don't remember that either. And the one sin that I think Argento commits with this movie is removing the helicopter zombie kill. Why? That kill was so fucking amazing when the blade hits him in the head at the beginning. He removed that because I was like, I feel like something's missing here when they're refueling, and it was the helicopter kill.
Yeah, I feel like there was one other personal sin that he committed.
Oh, do tell.
So while I love the zombie score, Argento definitely has a habit of not letting up on score sometimes.
Yes, I agree.
So there's times like, Romero would let a scene kind of breathe, or if there was score, he wouldn't let it be the main character always in the sequence. Argento doesn't give a fuck about that, but that's just Argento's style. He is a stylist. Because there was I can't think of any specific moments, but there was times like, oh, I feel like this would be a little stronger if the music wasn't so protruding in the scene. Yeah. But that being said, there was actually some really nice piano bits in the score too, especially like when Ken like Foray is like about to kill himself, spoiler, or some of the more melancholy moments later, like after they've gotten everything fortified, and it's like, oh man, some of these. I wish Romero would have used a couple more of these cues. That being said, I also found myself missing some of that library music at times. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel like Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, I missed it at some points, but then at the ending when the helicopter flies away and then it cuts to like that comic book music, that's how it was described in the subtitles. I didn't like that. I like the Goblin score at the end a little bit better than what Romero did. But Argento was also, like you said, there's one particular part of score that was very repetitive in this version. It was the song slapped, like I loved it, but he utilized it a lot and it got a little tiresome. But overall, it's kind
of like when you're watching Phantasm, it's like, okay, we've heard this.
Yeah, we get the themes. There was another movie I was watching recently where they do that. Houseu. They have the same like one song that they play almost every 5 or 10 minutes. And you're like, guys, pick another song here. Pick another tune. So
I feel, though it's interesting though, after watching the Argento cut, I was like, oh, I feel, because like they're the same movie, in its bones, but I feel like tonally they feel different. And I was watching them like, oh, because like this is my first time watching the Argento cut.
Same.
I was like, I feel like this was the version that Zack Snyder and James Gunn were ripping on.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say ripping off, that's the wrong word, but like riffing on.
And
they wrote their remake because it's like, oh, this feels more like was it 2004, 2006?
2004, Dawn of the Dead.
2004, Dawn of the Dead, more than the theatrical cut does.
Well, and I remember too when I watched the theatrical cut of the 1978 movie, how kind of shocked I was with the blood and guts. I did not expect it. And watching the Argento cut, I had to stop and say, I think this is. Did they add more scenes of? They did. They added a lot more scenes of like so much more violence in those movies. So I really like that because for a movie in 78. I don't think, I mean, there was a lot of grindhouse stuff coming out in the 70s that featured a lot of blood and guts and sex, but I don't know. This, for me, stands out in the 70s.
Well, they also, and we could talk about this more when we get to it, but the ratings board in the United States was kind of having a field day with this movie. Italy, I don't think was as... I'm sure they have a ratings board. I know everyone does, but they're not as anti-violence.
They're not as uptight
countries. Because I feel like, if anyone watches the Document of the Dead documentary, they're just kind of like at a point just kind of riffing and coming up with shit. So I'm sure they just kind of let Tom Savini do whatever he felt like he was capable of, and even with like the really ultra red blood, which I actually really like.
I like it too.
They did it because Romero wanted to feel like a comic book. And he succeeded. But I feel like they just kind of went off on this film.
Yeah, they really did with this one. And they also stay on the shots of the blood and gore a little bit longer in the Argento cut.
Argento knows what his audience wants.
And it's exactly this. And the crazy thing about it, why it's unrated, is because the MPAA or whatever it was back then was going to give this an X rating, and he fought for it to just go unrated because
my God, yes, because like his whole thing is like, if you make this an X film, people are going to think that we're pornography.
Correct.
And he goes, I'd rather go unrated, because he's like, I don't think he pretty much said, I'm not arguing with your assessment that this film is violent and only certain people should see it, but I'm going to fight against the distinction of it being considered pornographic.
Right, because I don't think NC-17 was a thing back in the 70s.
No.
It was R, PG, it was PG, R, and then X, and so it's just, those are very drastic bump ups. That's why eventually PG-13 and NC-17 came around.
Thanks, Gremlins.
Yeah, thanks, Gremlins and Temple of Doom. Appreciate you. But it's crazy to me to think that the theatrical was almost given the X rating. I'm not saying it's not shocking and bloody, but then you see Argento, so you're like, would this have been X if it was for like what?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, holy shit.
But then like I feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I remember you saying on this show a couple of times that you're kind of mixed on the overall oeuvre of Dario Argento. But that man makes some incredibly violent films. They don't always feel super violent because he's a very operatic and grandiose filmmaker,
right?
But goddamn, they're violent.
I'll give him this for this movie and how he edited it. I am a fan of him in this regard. The one thing that completely turned me off from him as a director is from the movie Trauma, where he had his daughter in that movie underage and topless. That's just gross to me. Like it's just gross. So that turned me off from him as a filmmaker. And I've tried a lot of his big hits. I mean, we did Deep Red, we did Phenomenon, in Dario Argento. We did 4 or 5 of his movies, and for some reason, I'm just not a big fan of him, which is, I guess, a hot take because his movies all have great ratings. But his editing in this, I like I said, I prefer it over the theatrical cut to an extent, but there is something still so much more atmospheric about Romero's original version that I really like.
I also really like, because if you watch even just clips from Romero's cut and then watch Argento's color timing is different.
It is. His is a bit more darkened.
Yeah, and it's also like a bit bluer in tone.
Yep.
It's definitely going for a specific vibe, and so not bad, just different.
Yeah, Romero's is a little bit lighter because I saw side by sides because I was curious, because I noticed that when I was watching the Argento cut, I thought this movie kind of feels like it has some different tinting or color grade, something going on. So I got side by sides of shots, and I was like, oh yes, Romero's is a little bit more lighter, whereas Argento's is a little bit more darker, kind of vibrant. The blood especially was really popping in his version. That shit and the makeup he used for the zombies was he said he regrets it because they came off blue instead of how he wanted them to come off looking from the original Night of the Living Dead. I like the look of the zombies in this.
I do too, and that also might be a hot take because I'm actually kind of bored of realistic looking zombies.
Yeah, I like the kind of cartoonish, just over the top. It's like not an over the top look, but it's just a look that's not done today anymore. But I mean, this movie really set the standard and set a lot of the tropes, because you have to remember, before this movie, there was Night of the Living Dead, maybe a few other zombie movies in the 70s. And then this movie, for me, is what started establishing a lot of the tropes that would evolve to what we know today. Obviously, that would change too with 28 Days Later when things were running at full speed. But, I personally, if zombies were real, I've said this before, I like my zombies slow. That's the environment I could survive in the apocalypse. If we have 28 Days Later zombies, I'm out. I'm not even going to try with things that are sprinting. Or what is it, World War Z, that they're sprinting as well? No.
Yeah, I never even saw that one.
I'm good on that one. So I did want to talk about how this movie's set up, because it's a very interesting setup. It starts kind of the way The Howling ends, right? Both at a news station, both erupting into chaos, and with the Goblin score behind the opening and Argento's cut, it was kind of a melancholy, chill score, but everyone's in a panic. So I felt calm, but also anxiety at the same time. So it gave me, from watching the Argento cut, a very, very high level of unease while everyone's fucking panicking in the newsroom. It just really threw me off, because the original score is not like that. It's a little bit more fitting to what's going on, but the opening is great. Of course, Argento says zombie instead of Dawn of the Dead, because that was his title. So there are some little differences there. There's also an extended scene in Romero's where the guy is yelling at people to come back, and they're all running away. I think that cutting that out was a good idea, in my opinion, because it really moved the story along quickly. I mean, we get to that raid on that low-income housing very quickly, and then that whole scene is very much extended in Argento's, much more bloodier, much more violent. But it's
Argento's almost feels like an action film.
It really does. He focuses so much more. It feels like a horror action rather than a horror thriller, because the pacing, even though there's only 8 minutes cut out, was so good. Every time things you're like, okay, things are getting better, it just ramped right back up, and chaos was ensuing, and then it would kind of taper off again, and then more chaos would happen. Usually I like pacing to kind of sweep up, but his kind of up and down pacing, for me, worked very well in his cut. I was glued to the TV. Even though I'd seen this movie before, it's like this whole new cut gave me a whole new perspective on how important or how crucial editing is. Like, you can take something that's already been done and redo it and almost have an entirely different vibe, an entirely different vibe with.
Can I have a little aside about editing?
Yeah. Feels important.
Correct. You're absolutely correct, because, like I said, just seeing how two creatives are working off the same script, the same footage, can will just their focus and how things can change is really fascinating. If people would like to see another example of this, I highly recommend the Night of the Living Dead Criterion Edition, and the reason being,
I have that.
I talk about this in my review for one of my more recent reviews for Night of the Living Dead. There is a special work print edit of Night of the Living Dead called, its original night is Night of Anubis.
Ooh.
And it's not a huge change. It's kind of similar to it's like watching the theatrical versus the Argento cut. Things they're just different enough. But the reason I mention this is because back in the day, and once again, if you ever watch Document of the Dead, watching George Romero, he's cutting this on a reel-to-reel setup, just to see like how they used to cut these films together. the footage is usually spliced together with either tape or glue, and that's how they did it. When you watch the work print cut, the edits are all very pronounced because they never smoothed it out.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I mention that is it makes you aware of the edits. And I think it's very interesting because then you can kind of like, since you're more aware of the edits, you're more focusing on the rhythm of the scenes. You're not, because like the job of an editor is, if you ever notice the edits, they haven't done their job correctly. It's a invisible art form.
Right.
Being aware of the edits and how long he decides to hold on each shot, I think is truly fascinating.
For what? For Argento or Romero?
Romero.
Yeah, because and it's funny though, because
that's why I recommend watching the work print cut on.
Okay. I have that criterion and I will absolutely be checking it out because I've been trying to watch. The only problem with my second site release is that the special features were Region B, and I still need to get a Region B player. So I know you sent it to me, but I did not have time. I am going to watch it because that's what I'm trying to do this year for the podcast, is watch any sort of special features that I can.
That being said, there's like several hours on that one, so that
okay, that makes sense.
You're not going to get through it very quickly. Like almost every feature on there is like at least an hour long.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking about editing and kind of the look and imagery of this movie, with the 4K scan we have on the second site, I can say without a doubt that this does not feel like it's from 78 outside of the few tells of cars and some technology. It almost at some points is timeless, which is really, because they're in a mall. You don't really see too much detail until they go into some shops. But sometimes I'm watching this like, man, this could have been put out yesterday and I wouldn't know the difference. It's a very, very good scan. It had nice contrast, rich colors. The blood was vibrant and I loved it. And I also really love Romero's camera work in this movie. The cinematographer obviously was in charge of that. But how Romero utilized some shots was very interesting. Like, I don't know if this was in the theatrical, but in the Argento cut, there's a POV shot of Steven underneath the mall and the tunnels in the mall. And then there's a POV of Peter's gun, like with the scope. That was such an impressive. I don't even know how you would fucking do that. Did they just overlay that on the film? I mean,
they
or optics on the camera.
Yeah, it's technically kind of like how you would do titles.
Wow. Okay.
You'd shoot the footage and then you'd give it to a title house, and then they would essentially layer film on top of it and shoot it again. That's why sometimes, if you ever notice that titles are sometimes grainier, it's because it's technically 2 layers of film on top of each other.
Okay.
And they probably did something very similar with, I can't say for sure, but knowing filmmaking process, that's probably how they did it.
Yeah, those shots of looking through the scope of Peter's gun was some really good shots. A lot of solid 70s zooms, because those are just my favorite.
Oh, me too, man. You jumping into Kung Fu, you're gonna get so many zooms.
Ooh, okay. I'm a big fan of zooms, but
me too, dude. I also love split screens.
I was watching. They did a split diopter, crazy enough, in Whistle, the split diopter was fucking seamless. I couldn't even, how you can kind of usually see like almost a dividing line. It was probably digital alteration, I guess, but it was very well done. But my favorite zoom in this movie, because it really encapsulates the dread and hopelessness that Fran and Steven are feeling, is it's towards the end of the movie after they have that fancy dinner, and it's a zoom out. So it's really close on Peter, and then it slowly zooms back, and they both just have this 1,000-yard stare on their face. And I was like, good, you can just feel the hopelessness and just the dread. And it was such a powerful scene with no dialogue, just camera work. I think Romero utilized, he was cooking with the camera work in this film.
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's one thing I really like about Romero as a filmmaker is I've said this before, I feel like even horror filmmakers should have influences outside of the horror genre to pull from. And Romero is just so good at visual storytelling.
Agreed.
He knows how to use the camera to tell the story that he's trying to tell. Because you could probably watch Dawn of the Dead silent and know what's going on.
And
even if you've never seen it.
And that's what I love about the storytelling in this movie is it's front loaded and not in a bad way, but it's front loaded with your exposition. You're put into this world that's going to shit and quickly introduced to the characters who all meet up and they go on their way. And after that, it's really just about them surviving. There's not many layers to the story outside of survival, trying not to lose your humanity, and just it's interesting because like I have notes for storytelling and I'm like, there's not much real storytelling. It's all coming from what Romero is showing you rather than telling you, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah, or like simple something is like what's another zombie film that or zombie property that you can think of where characters are bored?
Where characters are bored?
Yeah. Like think about it, like after they get them all fortified and they have everything they ever want, up until the bikers come, it's just kind of a montage of boredom and complacency. And
you're right.
They've survived.
Yeah.
They're good. They're bored.
Interesting. Yeah, no, you're right. Because even in the Dawn of the Dead remake, it's a very high energy. And they don't really, I mean, the only, they do the shopping thing at one point, I think.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's definitely a nod to that in 28 Days Later when they go to the grocery store and they go shopping. At least that's what I feel is a nod to Dawn of the Dead. But you're right. I'm thinking about zombie movies that I've seen, and there's really, they don't ever showcase kind of the boredom that would come from an apocalypse setting with slow zombies.
Yeah, like maybe The Walking Dead had, because they were on for so long. Like I'm sure they might have done something with it, but like it's not a very common.
It's not. You're right.
thing.
Even in Night of the Living Dead, that one was a little bit shorter. It was a little bit more fast paced, but they don't really have any boredom because they're experiencing it in real time, just like we are. So, and that's what I love about this movie too, is you're experiencing everything with the characters. We don't know anything more than they do.
Yeah,
and
we don't have superior position. We never leave.
And so, sometimes I like that. Sometimes I wish I knew more. But in this instance, I love that we are just along for the ride with these people, and we have no idea what's going to happen, much like them. I think it was a very good narrative choice from Romero to play it that way because it just really hit. In terms of character development in this movie, there's not really much because, I mean, I know the theatrical cut has a little bit more from Romero. But for me in a zombie movie, it's I find it interesting because I don't really need character development. Who these people were before and where they've come from is not relevant to the current situation at hand. And I think a lot of zombie movies can get away with that. Now, Train to Busan, on the other hand, will have you in fucking tears by the end, but that's another podcast. But for this one, I mean, you don't really know who these people were before. You know that 2 of them are SWAT, 2 of them worked at a news station. You know that Francine is pregnant and she is with Steven. But other than that, I mean, they don't really give us much because it's not really necessary to the plot. It's not really going to add anything, at least in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
So what I think is so beautiful about this film, though, is while there may not be character development in the traditional sense of where like here's the character at the beginning of the movie, here's the character at the end of the film. How have they drastically changed? But there's so many nice character moments.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of character moments, which I love. And I would say like maybe the biggest character development in this film would be Galen Ross's character, Fran, realizing that she has to take care of herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when she tells Flyboy that she wants to know how to pilot the helicopter, she wants to she has to learn how to shoot and all these other things. And good thing she learned that, because like Romero regretted the way that he had Barbara's character play out in Night of the Living Dead, where she was just like, she pretty much went into shock at the beginning of the movie and stayed that way.
Right.
He said, I regret the way I did that. So he wanted someone who's a little more self-sufficient. And, she was clearly from the beginning of the film, but in a very different way, because she ran that news office and she was a person with authority. And then the other one would be Ken Foray's character, Peter. Like, he is kind of at his lowest moment and realizes, like, he's like, I don't want to continue. I don't want to see what's next.
Mm-hmm.
But then he has that moment. So, like, Fran, beginning of the movie, probably wouldn't have even considered leaving without someone from the team, from their group.
Right.
But she's like, fine, you're leave. You don't want to come with? I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm at least going to defend. I'm going to protect myself. So then, like, Peter's moment of, which I also love that he has that vulnerability because he is such a badass through so much of the film. He's like, this is how I'm going out. And I think some of that is also just because of him dealing with Roger's death still. But then I also just love that he's like, no, fuck this. I want to survive. I'm
better than this. Yeah, there's two moments with, I mean, Ken Foray, he's a big, pretty brolic dude, and he has that moment in the beginning where he is shedding tears over having to kill these people because he knows that at the end of the day, they're still human beings. They're just infected with whatever. And then he has that scene at the end where he's like, I can't do this anymore, and almost shoots himself, but then says, no, I'm going to survive. So you see his vulnerability the most, I think, which was an interesting choice for him because I think he was the most level-headed person in this movie, constantly thinking about what was best for the group and what was best for everyone, because Steven was like, I don't think we need to show you how to fly or shoot, and Ken's like, no, that's a good idea. We should do that. And it ended up helping them in the end because that's how they got away.
Yeah, or like one of my favorite moments in this movie is like when Roger is just being really reckless, and he pretty much is like, you got to get your head on fucking straight.
Yeah. Oh, when they were getting the two semis. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's consistently one of my favorite sequences. And also just like, I know how that scene plays out, and the entire time I'm just like gripped. Like, it's a phenomenal sequence in this film.
It's a great sequence because Roger is very gung-ho. He's very like, woo, woo, he's screaming, and Ken Foray is just like keeping it calm. And then, of course, that overzealousness that Roger has ends up getting bit in the arm first and then the leg. And they're like, we got to take care of that leg. And what I really appreciate about this movie is the fact that the transition from human to zombie, at least with Roger, was very slow. It took its time, much like the slowness of the zombies. It made sense for it to take a little bit of time, whereas the remake, people get, or like 28 days later, people get bit, and 5 seconds later, they're in a zombie,
because I feel like in this movie, because like, and I'm going mostly based on Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
On this assessment. But I always kind of got the feeling that in George's world, the dead come back to life. It's less an infection. Man, maybe that changes in this film or going forward, but I always kind of took it as it's not something that's necessarily changing you. Just you dying means you will come back. So to me, it's like he is sick, and he probably has an infection, and they can't treat it, and he's not going to turn until he actually dies. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of the way that I've always interpreted this.
No, you're absolutely right, because the thing I was going to bring up next is when I think it's Steven who's in the elevator who gets bit by the zombies and there's a lot of blood. He comes back a lot quicker. And I thought, why would there be a difference in time? But one of them got bit twice and probably got an infection and died, and the other one's death was so bloody and violent that he probably died much quicker. I think you're absolutely 100% correct with that. I don't think it's necessarily an infection. It's you die, you come back, because that makes the most sense now that I'm thinking about it. Interesting.
Yeah, because like in Night of the Living Dead, like that first zombie that goes after them in the graveyard, I've always taken that as a person who rose from his grave. Like he was in a fresh grave and he rose up from his grave because the dead was reanimated. Not necessarily the freshly dead, just the dead is reanimated.
And there is a little bit of talk of when Peter's talking about the voodoo, and he's like, and then he has the iconic line of, when hell is full, the dead will walk the earth. So they even there's even a little bit of mention of voodoo in this, and that's the zombies do involve voodoo, and the zombies we see today really technically aren't zombies as it spreads through an infection. Zombies originally were brought back to life through voodoo. So I like that he threw that in there as well, but that makes the most sense to me, honestly, and I like that. It's not necessarily an infection. It's just once you die, you come back. I'm going to reiterate it. I think you're 100% correct with that.
So
with that assumption.
Roger took so long because it took him a while to die, and they couldn't really do much for him.
Yeah, I mean, they had limited medical supplies, but no one is trained to, no one is trained to, patch up bites, severe bites.
And like, you get a chunk taken out of you, unless you get that taken care of at a hospital. If you don't bleed out, you're gonna get an infection.
Yeah, exactly. It's an open, like a very big open wound on your leg and your arm. Sure, they bandaged him up, but if you don't have the correct, equipment, then that makes the most sense. And that actually makes me appreciate that more, because I was trying to figure that out the whole time. I didn't even think it wasn't an infection, because that's just always, your brain is just wired to think zombie and infection. So interesting. Yeah. I really like that a lot. So my core fear of this movie is, outside of the obvious undead humans coming for your flesh, I would say it's the breakdown of civilization, having to adapt to a foreign environment where you are forced to rely on instincts and survival in this apocalypse setting, because that is a horrible thought to have. Like, if civilization broke down, we would have to go back to like hunting and gathering, and like that's not something we know how to do. Like, we're so comfortable in our life that having to adapt like that would be very hard.
They didn't adapt. Like, they went to a place where they could get pretty much anything that they needed easily.
Right.
And I get that. But I also feel like it made them more of a target. So,
especially for the biker gang.
I gotta say though, like when this movie came out in 1978, malls were a pretty new thing. Like, this was one of the first malls in Pennsylvania, I think Romero said, and he was friends with the guy who built it, which is how they got to use it. It was nice to see a full mall again.
Yeah, right. And because I noticed them saying in the helicopters, like, "Oh, that's one of those big malls," and I was like, yeah, it's a mall. I didn't even think that the fact that they were newer back then, but it was funny to hear that. Yeah. It was funny to hear that dialogue.
And just like, I've been to this mall, it does not look like this anymore. Like, there's a skating rink and like all the water fixtures, and man, there's a couple hallways that look like they did then. Like, when they're like, I think there's a shot of the biker gang driving down a hallway, and there's like a brick wall behind them. That's still there because like that's a core thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a nice little bust of George Romero there, which is kind of fun, and a little zombie museum where they have like surviving elements from the old mall that you can look at. But apparently Walmart's trying to buy it, and I hope they don't.
Oh God, no! Please no! Please leave that mall intact.
And the cemetery from Night of the Living Dead is like 20 minutes away.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, I knew that one was shot in Pennsylvania as well. I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention was just the motorcycle raid, because it's hard not to talk about this one. After all the things that have happened with this group already, it cuts to a few months later because Francine goes from not pregnant to like full belly. So we kind of have a time jump, and they're just living their lives. Ken Foray is on the roof hitting tennis balls off and just doing whatever. And then that's when Tom Savini and his biker gang notice them, and later that night radio them like, "You guys are fucked." And then it is just one of the most amped up, adrenaline filled endings to a zombie movie out there. I mean, it comes out of nowhere, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
And like, I've seen more intense sequences, but they still this one still beats them. It feels gritty, it feels DIY, it's just
Yeah.
Fucking works, man.
You've got motorcycles just careening around the mall. Everyone is blasting all these zombies. They fucking cream pies out like pies to the face. Zombies.
All I kept thinking is how much of a pain in the ass was it to clean up after these?
Oh, I know, right? Because it probably
they could only shoot while the mall was closed, so they had to have it cleaned up of no fucking motorcycle like skid marks on the floor, all the blood and cream pies. That sounds like a weird porno. Had to have it all cleaned up before shoppers came in. Like, that's just wild to me.
It's just like Chopping Mall. They shot after hours and had to clean up as well. I love that there's 2 movies that came out around the same time involving real malls, and it's just having to do it after hours is wild. But that ending, it's just, you think everything's coming, everything's coming to a head. We're gonna end this movie. There's only about 20 minutes left, and then it's just full-blown chaos when they enter the mall. And then, of course, that's when you have the moment where Fran and Peter go up to the roof. Peter has that moment and then gets in the helicopter. And the ending specifically, when I watched this the first time, of them just flying, Peter's like, how much fuel do we have? Not much. All right, and then they fly off into the distance. I thought that ending was perfect.
Me too.
Sometimes I don't like the open-ended endings, but this one I was like, perfect, 10 out of 10. Couldn't ask for a better way to end it. We don't need to know what happened to them. They've got a helicopter. They've survived enough. They'll make it work. Loved the ending to this movie, and the music is a little different from the Romero cut to the Argento cut. I like the kind of goblin score that they lead out on. It's a little bit more happy.
You don't like the dun 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 dun. No.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit at all. I was like, no. So other than that, I don't think I have too much else. Is there anything you wanted to mention? I think we covered it pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, I think we did. Like I said, ultimately my preferred cut is still the theatrical cut.
Okay.
And I think that's just because I do like Argento's pacing. I do like that he lets some of these scenes breathe a little bit more. Like, it's a different vibe of the film, but I do really like Argento's cut. And like I said, I feel like it's one that, like, oh, man, it's a little bit later. I want to watch Dawn of the Dead. Let's watch that one. I need to revisit the can cut. Funny enough, that was actually the first version of Dawn of the Dead I'd ever seen.
Oh, okay.
I have a VHS copy that's incorrectly described as the director's cut. It's a two tape thing. Then it also has some special features on there, so I should watch that and just see what's all in the second tape. And I later found out that's the can cut, and Romero is so pissed that they call it the director's cut. And so that was the first version I saw, which is the really long. And like, I think because I started there, I didn't know how I felt about Dawn of the Dead the first time I saw it. I feel like I'd appreciate it more now. I also I didn't realize that there was no goblin music in that version. So I was like, this is the music that everyone is going on about. Like, I love the library tracks, but like, I had Goblin in my mind because I had heard some of their scores, and I was like, this is kind of lame.
Yeah, that Goblin score in the Argento cut, there's a couple scenes in particular where it's some really funky, wavy synth sounds. I was like, oh, I really like this.
Yeah. So. But like I think the theatrical is still my preferred cut. I wish there was kind of a Frankenstein version between all three of them that maybe features a little bit more goblin. Not as much as Argento used, but just a little bit more. And some of the scene structures while still also having the exposition. Like, I know there's a complete cut online that someone made that's like every ounce of footage ever put out for this movie all in one place, but like,
that seems like a lot.
Yeah. But other than that, like, yeah, I loved, and every time I've watched this movie, I appreciate it more and more. And there's this most recent rewatch, I'm like, yeah, this is a fucking 5-star movie. Any cut of this movie I just find really engaging and interesting. And it's funny too, going back to that ending sequence with the bikers. I remember thinking, it was like, okay, we're at the biker sequence. Cool. I checked the time. I was like, oh man, there's still a good amount of time left in this movie. But that scene just fucking flies by.
It does. It flies.
Even though it's a relatively large chunk of the movie.
It's like 20 minutes.
It flies by.
Yeah. And I have the same kind of feeling about you. It's like what mood am I in tonight? Do I want to have a little bit more thematic or what's the word I'm looking for? More atmospheric time, or do I want to just get in and get out? So I like that I have options. Sometimes I might be in a chiller mood. Let's watch the theatrical. Sometimes I might be in a rampage action, feeling, and we'll do that. So
or I feel like the can cut is perfect for a Sunday afternoon. It's raining outside. You make yourself a cup of coffee.
Yeah, have yourself a nice little day of 2 hours and 17 minutes, I believe. So, all right. Well, if that's all we have, that was Dawn of the Dead from 1978, the Argento cut. Let's move on to the final cut. Funny enough. So, taglines. There was a lot of taglines that involved specific releases, so I just picked these two because they made sense. So, too horrific to be advertised on television, and of course the iconic line, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. We already kind of mentioned some of these trivia facts, like the color that Tom Savini chose for the skin. He was unhappy with it. The two children who attack Peter at the airport are played by Melissa Dunlap and Mike Savini, the real-life niece and nephew of Tom Savini. They're the only zombies in all of George Romero films that spontaneously run and never do the trademark shuffle. And then, of course, the MPAA X rating we've already talked about. This one's great if it's true. You never know how true some of these are, but if it's true, I love this. Some of the actors playing zombies in the movie would frequently get drunk at a late-night bar called the Brown Derby, which was in the Monroeville Mall. One night, they stole a golf cart and crashed into a marble pillar, causing $7,000 worth of damage.
And they continue to let them shoot there.
Yep, 10 out of 10. Much of the fake blood used in the blood packets was a mixture of food coloring, peanut butter, and cane sugar syrup. And this goof, I had to slow down to actually see, but it is there, and it's hilarious. When Roger hits a zombie with his truck, the trampoline the stuntman bounces off of can be seen briefly before the truck passes over. And purging the mall of zombies, the character put their bodies in the freezers with fresh food, which is strange because it's rotting flesh that could contaminate the unused food. So... rated 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb for our purposes of the Nightmare Index. That is a 3.9 out of 5, 4.0 out of 5 on Letterboxd, 92% on the tomato meter, no shock there, and a 90% audience score, which is quite impressive. Michael already gave his rating away of a 5. So that's what he's got. I actually bumped it up from a 4 to a 4.5. So that went up for me, which means we have a Nightmare Index of 4.35, which is just shy of Hausu at 4.4. So this will take the second spot on the Nightmare Index. And that also means it is a Frightmares certified slap. That is 4 weeks in a row with certified slaps. I'm kind of shocked. So, but I mean, I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked because I knew this one was going to be a slap. It's kind of hard for it not to be. So, Similar movies according to IMDb, we have Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead 2004, Land of the Dead, and Return of the Living Dead. Very on the nose. And then similar movies according to Letterboxd. They also have on Letterboxd related titles, and then so like his related titles were up there, but then we have the Dawn of the Dead remake, Diary of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead 1990, Day of the Dead 2008, and Zombieland. So those are your recommendations to check out. Did we get some funny reviews, sir?
I got a couple.
You got a couple.
So many of them were really long. I had to wade through. So I actually, honestly, what I did is I took reviews from people who hated it. Just
okay, yeah. Sometimes it's really hard to get the short, quippy reviews because people go really into them. So
I do want to mention I couldn't find a specific review for it, but I just love that there were plenty of people online being like, Roger and Peter are my favorite post-apocalyptic gay couple.
Okay, so people are shipping them. I love this.
Yeah,
I love it. All right, hit me with what you've got. I don't have as many as I normally do because I
got 3 of them.
Yeah, that's about what I got.
So this first one was 5 stars from Liz, 5 star and a heart. I can't believe George Romero made a zombie movie about a polycule.
What is a polycule?
It's when you are in a polyamorous relationship.
Oh, let's see. My first one is my library of movies. There we go. So 4.5 stars from Kyler. Man, Black Friday sure was chaos last night.
I almost chose that one, but I figured you were going to do it. All right, this one is 0.5 star.
Ooh.
By someone just named Max. It says, my DVD player stopped working when I had seen like half the movie, but I don't give a fuck. This movie was ass.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, these unfortunately my funny reviews are people who didn't like it.
That's fine. This one's not rated, just a heart, which, some people do that. I'll never understand why that dude had to check his blood pressure that bad.
Yep. Okay.
You weren't there, man. It was the 70s. Things were different.
Yeah, we were really concerned about our blood pressure. All right, let me see if I can find one that likes it, though, real quick. I would rather spread love.
Yeah. Even if it's just a heart, that's fine.
Yeah, just, bear with me for a moment.
I'll read mine. This is my last one. 4 stars from Sam Thompson. These zombies really got around the Wonka gum, didn't they?
All right, here's one that's I think is kind of funny. It's 4.5 stars from Just Stop YT. Why hasn't Family Guy done a parody special for this yet? Main guy is literally named Peter. Roger getting pushed around in a wheelbarrow is an easy Joe gag. Flyboy just radiates Quagmire energy, plus he's a pilot. Friend's a pregnant girl who speaks her mind, Bonnie. And the zombie kid they just shoot at the start could be Stewie. Romero didn't leave any of these pieces just for you not to use them, Seth.
Wow, that is very true. They have spoofed so many things. All right, I'm getting in Seth MacFarlane's DMs right now, sir, please.
I don't even watch Family Guy, and I would watch that.
Yeah, I've kind of stopped watching it a while ago. They started doing almost every other episode was like a time travel episode, and I was like, all right, I'm kind of done here. All right. So, Michael, where can people find the sultry sound of your voice on your podcast?
So my podcast is the Shameless Picture Show. We are gearing up for episode 200, which is the start of season 10. We have some. When does this drop?
This is dropping on February 4th.
Okay, so that. Because I feel like the first episode of my show, because I'm recording the first episode next week.
So probably the 9th.
The week after, yeah. Well, I'll just spoil it here. So the Shameless Picture Show, we are officially on a new podcast network. It's called Somebody's Favorite Productions. We are officially a new member of that podcast network, so make sure you give that a like and a follow. And I am on the podcast is on your favorite podcast app of choice. And it will probably be in even more because Austin's going to show me how to get on even more platforms.
Oh yeah, baby. It's going to be everywhere. It will be inescapable.
Exactly. And then if you want to know what I think about movies that I'm watching, you can find me at Letterboxd Viers10 2008. So that's my last name, V as in Victor, IERS 102008. Thus far, I have actually reviewed every single movie I have watched this year. And if this will be the 3rd year of writing a review for every single film.
Love it.
And then, social media, you can find me, either my name, Michael Viers, or Shameless Picture Show. I do physical media reviews, so on and so forth.
Okay. And if you enjoy this show, please rate and review on your favorite podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Slasher, Threads, and YouTube at Frightmares Podcast, or email us stayspooky@outlook.com. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd, I am Dr. Proctor. If you want to expand your movie podcast listening, obviously check out the Shameless Picture Show, the Dead-Eyed Millennial Film Club, and 1 Week Rental as well. Next week, Corey and I will be doing Dead and Buried from 1981 as our deep cut, and it is streaming on Amazon, Tubi, Screambox, and Pluto. So be sure to check that one out if you haven't. And until then, stay tuned and stay spooky.